Yesterday in Emmerdale, Joe Tate, Ned Porteous, took great pleasure in telling Cain Dingle, Jeff Hordley, that Moira Dingle, Natalie J. Robb, had now sold her share of Butler's farm to the Tates. Cain was gutted, and immediately set about trying to get answers from Moira in his latest visit to her at the prison. Cain couldn't help but wonder if Moira had given the Tates what they wanted, because she now viewed her husband as weak, following the cancer diagnosis. On Monday, he told Moira his health secret, but remained adamant that he'd still fight the Tates and not let them have the farm. As much as Moira loved Butlers, it was causing her a significant amount of stress, so it really was easier to let it go. When Moira spoke to Cain, there was a sense of relief in her tone, but all Cain could think about was the fact Joe and Kim Tate, Claire King, had won their battle. At home farm a while later, Cain struggled to believe that Kim could understand why Moira sold up. He said that when he's better and his cancer journey has ended, he's going to come after the Tates and rip everything they've got to shreds. That evening, Cain organized another family meeting and told them all that the Tates now owned Butler's farm. Matty Barton, Ash Pomichiano, was completely gutted and rushed out of the pub in tears, devastated by how much he's lost over the past year. Despite being told by Kim to keep his distance, Joe just couldn't resist visiting the pub once again to rub Cain's nose in it. He announced with a huge smug smile on his face that the new tenant farmer at Butler's is going to be someone the Dingle family know very well. The clan turned to look at the person in horror, shocked by the betrayal. The drama began when Joe Tate encountered Cain and delivered news that he clearly enjoyed sharing. Moira had sold her share of Butler's farm. And not just to anyone. She had sold it to the Tates. Joe relished every second of the moment. With a smug grin, he made sure Cain understood exactly what had happened. The land that the Dingle family had fought so hard to protect was now firmly under Tate ownership. Cain was stunned. For a moment, he could barely process the words. But as the reality sank in, anger quickly followed. The farm had been part of the Dingle family's identity for years. It represented hard work, survival, and countless memories. And now, according to Joe, it was gone. Cain searches for answers. Refusing to believe the situation without hearing it from her directly, Cain immediately decided to confront his wife. At the time, Moira Dingle was still in prison, fighting serious charges that had already turned her life upside down. When Cain arrived for another prison visit, his emotions were already running high. He needed answers, and he wasn't prepared for what he might hear. As soon as the conversation began, Cain asked the question that had been burning in his mind since Joe's revelation. Why? Why would Moira sell the farm to the very people who had been trying to destroy them? Cain's fear. Did Moira see him as weak? The conversation quickly turned personal. Cain couldn't shake one troubling thought. Had Moira made the decision because she now saw him differently? Just the day before, Cain had finally revealed the truth about his cancer diagnosis to her, a secret he had been carrying alone for weeks. Despite the illness, Cain had insisted that he was still strong enough to fight. He told Moira he wouldn't let the Tates win. He would battle the cancer, and he would battle the Tates. But sitting across from his wife in the prison visiting room, Cain suddenly wondered if she no longer believed that. Had she sold the farm because she thought he was weak? Moira's reasoning. Moira listened carefully to Cain's concerns. She understood why he felt betrayed. But the truth behind her decision was far more complicated. Running Butler's farm had always been a source of pride for her. It represented independence and resilience. Yet over the past months, it had also become a source of overwhelming stress. With mounting financial pressure, Joe Tate's constant manipulation, and her own legal troubles, the farm had turned into something that felt impossible to manage. And then there was Cain's health. Hearing about his cancer diagnosis changed everything. For Moira, the most important thing was Cain's recovery. If selling the farm meant removing some of the pressure weighing down on him, then it felt like the right choice. When she explained her reasoning, there was even a hint of relief in her voice. For the first time in months, one massive burden had been lifted. But Cain couldn't share that relief. Cain sees only defeat. All Cain could think about was the fact that the Tates had won. For years, the rivalry between the Dingles and the Tates had shaped life in the village. Now it felt like that battle had ended in humiliation. Joe Tate had gotten exactly what he wanted, and Cain felt powerless to stop it. The realization filled him with frustration and anger. Confrontation at home farm. Later that day, Cain paid a visit to home farm. There he confronted Kim Tate, the formidable matriarch of the Tate family. Cain struggled to believe that Kim could possibly understand Moira's decision. In his eyes, The Tates had manipulated the situation to their advantage. They had taken advantage of Moira's vulnerability. And now they owned Butler's farm. Standing in the grand halls of Home Farm, Cain made his feelings crystal clear. He warned the Tates that this wasn't over. When his cancer treatment was finished, he promised he would come back stronger. And when he did, he would make the Tates pay. "I'll rip everything you've got to shreds," he vowed. The threat hung in the air. But Kim Tate remained calm, as confident as ever. A painful family meeting. That evening, Cain gathered the family together for a meeting at the pub. The mood was tense before he even began speaking. Everyone sensed something was wrong. When Cain finally delivered the news, the room fell silent. Butler's farm was no longer theirs. The Tates now owned it. For the Dingles, the announcement felt like a punch to the stomach. Few people took the news harder than Matty Barton. Matty's heartbreak. Over the past year, Matty had already experienced more than his share of loss. His wife Amy had died in the devastating limo crash. The trauma had left emotional scars that were still healing. Butler's farm had been one of the few constants in his life, a place filled with memories and family history. Hearing that it was gone was too much to bear. Overwhelmed by grief, Matty rushed out of the pub in tears. The pain of the past year suddenly felt heavier than ever. Joe can't resist one more jab. Despite being warned by Kim to keep his distance from the Dingles, Joe couldn't resist making another appearance at the pub that night. He walked in with the confidence of someone who knew he had already won. And once again, he made sure everyone knew it. With a smug smile, Joe announced the next step in his plan. The Tates had found a new tenant farmer for Butler's farm. But this wasn't just any farmer. It was someone the Dingles knew very well. The shocking reveal. Joe paused for dramatic effect, enjoying every second of the tension in the room. Then he revealed the identity of the new tenant. The pub fell silent. Every member of the Dingle clan slowly turned toward the person standing nearby. Shock spread across their faces. This wasn't just a business decision. It felt like betrayal. Someone they trusted, someone who knew what Butler's farm meant to them, had agreed to take over the land under Tate ownership. For the Dingles, it was a moment that felt almost impossible to believe. Cain's anger reaches boiling point. For Cain, the revelation pushed him dangerously close to losing control. The farm had already been taken from them, but now seeing someone familiar step into their place made the loss feel even more personal. His anger toward the Tates burned stronger than ever. But beneath that anger was something else. Fear. Cain knew that his cancer battle was only just beginning. And for the first time in his life, he was facing an enemy he couldn't simply fight with his fists. The future of the Dingles. As the episode ended, the future of the Dingle family looked more uncertain than ever. Butler's farm, once the heart of their world, now belonged to the Tates. Matty was struggling with grief. Moira remained behind bars. And Cain was preparing for the fight of his life against cancer. Yet if there's one thing the villagers know about Cain Dingle, it's this. He never backs down from a fight, no matter how impossible it seems.